Basketball fans, welcome back. So the 2021 FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers will go down as one of the most weird and bizarre windows that the Kenya Morans have played in. So in this video, I'll just be going in depth and talk about the whole experience. And prior to this, we had the Kenya Morans participate in the FIBA Afrobasket pre-qualifiers. So that pre-qualification round was the one that enabled Kenya to be able to be at the actual FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers. So there's a qualifiers for the qualifier. Kenya were able to grab a spot together with South Sudan, and by virtue of those two teams making it to the finals, they're able to qualify for the 2020-2021 FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers. So Kenya Morans finished the 2-4 record, and a lot of people were excited to see the Kenya Morans be able to participate. Remember, this was the year of the pandemic, and these games happened in November of the year 2020. It was a period where there was a lot of COVID restrictions, and the lockdowns they were lifted, but there was that whole curfew situation. People were masking on, and there was that health and safety protocol that went ahead in there. And it was a very long time because a lot of teams, a lot of people were not exposed to normal activities as they were accustomed to. But as the months progressed and people learned how to live with the virus, things changed. But onto the Kenya Morans. So there was a lot of excitement with the Kenya Morans playing in the Afrobasket. Number one, it was the first time in a long time where we saw the Kenya Morans participate in anything Afrobasket. Last time we saw the Kenya Morans in Afrobasket was 28, 29 years. I can even say it was a year before I was even born, because right now I'm in the age 30, so heading on to 31. But anyway, it is what it is. So the Kenya Morans at this time, there was a lot of joy and happiness to see them play. There was that momentum they carried from the Afrochan 2019, that silver, to the Afrobasket pre-qualifiers that happened in January of the year 2020, early before the pandemic hit. And right now it's November, and the Kenya Morans, they were expected to at least drop some good plays, just make sure they are able to be able to continue the same magic that they had. But boy, were we wrong, because these games happened in Rwanda, and the Kenya Morans in the first game got beat from pillar to post by Senegal. And I remember this game clearly because I watched this game live. At that time, I watched it on courtside. If I'm not wrong, I had a courtside subscription at the time, and I watched the game and I caught the game, and it was a massacre, especially in the fourth quarter, because this is the game that the Kenya Morans just forgot how to play defense. And I must say it was very hard to watch. Coach Cliff was there, Talongo was there, and it was a very difficult game indeed. So it was one of those games that you just want to click off and just forget, but it was so difficult to look away. The Kenya Morans had 2 points in the fourth quarter, getting outscored by 32 in the fourth, and Senegal were just abusing the Kenya Morans at the transition. And there was no transition defense coming from the Kenya Morans team. It was actually quite sad, because you expect at least a team to show a bit of effort on defense, but there was so much miscommunication, and there was a lot of things that just went wrong. And this game ended 92-54, and it was a bloodbath. It was a blowout, and not too much I can see in this game, but the Senegalese guys just came in and dominated. They showed that they had size, and they had the most dunks in there. And every single play just ended in a dunk. Yusufa Endoy and by Njai. I mean, they were just doing everything. And they were just abusing Kenya on both defense and offense. And there was nothing they could do. And Senegal are one of those teams that hail at the Sahel region, and they are very athletic, and they used the same strategy that the Kenya Morans had at the time, which was run and gun. But because of how athletic they were and how young that roster was, they were able to utilize the run and gun system perfectly. to the point where they didn't even have to settle in for plays. They didn't have to do a lot of high level plays in there. All they just had to do was just run the Kenyan runs off the floor, make sure to capitalize on the turnovers that they had, which the Kenyan runs really had a lot of turnovers at the time, and they were able to go ahead and just make the lead balloon, and it just started a domino effect to what was to come, and Kenya were not able to even respond, and that was the first game. But now the second game against Angola, similar situation, uh, players fouling out of the game early. There was there's this issue that the Kenyan Rams had at the time, which they were not able to fix. They starting off the game slow and having a poor start, and not having a very good feel of the ball at the start of the first quarter, second quarter. In the first half, not starting the game off well in a good tempo. So that's the thing that really uh, that was the main Achilles heel for the Kenyan Rams at the time, because uh, a, given a good start and not being able to capitalize on chances as they come, the Kenyan Rams really suffered greatly, because Senegal and Angola are one of the top teams in African basketball. Following the North African teams, we have the teams that hail at the Sahel region and the Sub-Saharan team in Angola. So Senegal and Angola were very good, and they are very legendary, and they have appeared in Afrobaskets, previous Afrobaskets for years. So in the Angolan game, at least there was not too much, blowouts. But the main thing that stood out was the fouls, and I was really monitoring the front court players, because some players were not even able to finish the game. A player like Ronnie Gundo was not able to finish the game because of how much he fouled, and not being able to have consistent play styles and strategies, because Coach Cliff at the time didn't have a good philosophy, and it really held back the full potential of the Morans when they committed to a very old and aging roster. So at this time, people assumed that the age of the Kenya Morans was going to be a hidden advantage, a hidden card that they could pull out and win a game at any time. But boy, were they wrong, because there are older players in the other opposing teams, but they're able to go ahead and dominate. And they dominated Kenya in brutal fashions, in a brutal way, and Kenya did not have a response. That game against Angola ended 83-66. Then we had the third game, Kenya versus Mozambique. At least Kenya had a very good start in this one, and they were able to win this game 79-62. So that was the first window. Kenya had a 1-2 record, and Kenya being able to win against Mozambique really helped our chances in qualifying, because had Kenya lost that game against Mozambique, things would have been very different, and the qualification process will not have been achieved. Now, a lot of things happened before the second window. Coach Cliff exited from the Morans coaching staff after that poor performance against Senegal and Angola, with his philosophy being questioned. He got released by the Kenya Basketball Federation, which is a very good thing, and they brought in Coach Liz Mills. So Coach Liz Mills had a very different game plan, especially when it came to the Kenya Morans basketball. The Kenya Morans squad had a mean age of about 30 years, so they were a very aged roster. They were not as athletic on the legs, and they were not young, and they were getting older, and things were not just looking good for the Morans team. So Coach Les Mills had to change and add a few changes when it came to defense, because defense was something that the Kenya Morans really struggled. And with the Kenya Morans having Coach Les Mills at the coaching position, it really helped, because they had the fifth best defensive rating in the tournament, despite not having a good record when Coach Les Mills was there. The Kenya Morans still were a formidable force on defense. That game against Senegal, they had their rematch, but Senegal really literally beat Kenya in the second half. This game, in the second window, Kenya versus Senegal, this game that ended 69-51, it was a very interesting game, because in the first half, of the game, Team Kenya was holding serve pretty well. And to some extent, I felt like Kenya was going to make the upset on Senegal. And Senegal on the verge of losing that game because Senegal had the worst second quarter ever. But the biggest issue that the Kenyan Morans had at the time was the age factor and not being able to be athletic on the legs and having a lot of turnovers in the second half. And that is the reason as to why they lost that game. That game they lost because of the second half. And more specifically, the fourth quarter. They couldn't finish the games well because there was a pattern. The Kenyan Morans have a very good way of, starting the game with a lot of high tempo energy. But when it came to late in the game, you could see like the legs became stiff. You could not be able to run. And even the shots that would go in when they started off the game, when they take the same shot and it's at the end of the game, they're not able to score. So that was a very major challenge, and Senegal were able to expose that twice. Then the Angolan game. So this game will go down in history as the Tyler Ongwae buzzer beater game because he hit that shot at the buzzer, and Kenya were able to qualify like that, beating Angola by 1 point. So this game was actually quite interesting. I watched it live. I can even say I watched every single game live and I rewatched it again just to be able to understand what happened at the time. And these games, I just remember them vividly. And that's the reason as to why I can just come out and just tell you how it happened. So this game, there was a lot of, people who thought that, this game, maybe Angola will have won it. Maybe Kenya can win it by a whisker, But the basketball gods just decided to, you know what? We will grant Kenya this, divine wish of qualifying in the Afrobasket. And the basketball gods gave us that. When Telaongwa hit that shot and he went in, it started that beef between Kenya and Angola. Because in the first game versus Angola, it was a blowout. It was a no contest. But with Coach Les Mills assisting the team on how to carry out of defensive and offensive schemes that they need to be done, there were not too many blowouts. In the Senegal game versus an Angolan game, those games were very, very close. At least in the Angolan game, Kenya were able to pull away with the win. And the biggest concern that I had even in that Angolan game was how Kenya responded with a lead. When Kenya is on top, they don't know how to play and defend a lead. And at some point, Kenya had an 8-point lead in 2 minutes left in regulation. But Angola were able to withstood that run, and they were able to even get in a position where they're even 1 point ahead. And Kenya, if that shot from Telaongwa was not able to get in, Kenya will have blown an 8-point lead in 2 minutes. And at least Telaongwa saved the day with that shot. And, winning heals all wounds. And a lot of people, just wrote off all the flaws. But Mozambique really wanted their get back. And in the last and final game, the qualifiers, after Kenya had qualified, there was no much urgency in winning that game. A lot of players got, lax a bit. Telaongwa, he got rested because there's no need to win that game because Mozambique had not even won a single game at this point. And so that they cannot go winless, looks like the Kenyan Morans just gave away this game. And considering the fact that Kenya already qualified, there was no urgency in winning that game. So that's just about it. So that just wraps up like the 6-game stretch on the madness that happened. So I even say this is a weird qualifiers because the Kenya Morans were able to win 1 game on the other under Coach Cliff and 1 game under Coach Les Mills, which would have not have happened if Telaongwa did not hit that shot. But luckily, he was able to go ahead and hit it for us. And with that qualifiers happening the way it is, it leaves another question. Would the 2025 FIBA Afrobasket qualifiers be the same? Because Kenya lost the first 2 games against Tunisia and Angola again, and they won a game against Guinea. So will that beef against Kenya versus Angola reignite this February? Because Angola still remembers what happened, and they got their chance. And I don't know what happened in the draw because when I saw Angola there, I was like, damn, this is going to be another bloodbath, and I know for a fact that they are preparing and they are going to send their best roster there. So yeah, it is what it is. So, but I was happy to see Coach Liz Mills be able to coach this team. It was her first 3-game stretch, and with her taking the Kenya Morans to the actual Afrobasket, a lot of people were very confident with what the Kenya Morans are going to be able to do. At some point, people even got invested in the Kenya Morans after they qualified. They were doing all those. They went to many media houses giving interviews, but as the days and the months progressed to the actual Afrobasket, things went south. Very fast, and yeah, I'm going to talk about it in the next video. So if you guys like the video, make sure to leave your feedback down in the comments what you think about this. I'm gonna talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.